Good morning. Good morning to those of you who are here in our sanctuary and to those who are watching on the internet. I'm Sue Owen Kinsey, and I am the moderator of this congregation and today's worship associate. Welcome to all of you to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Flint. We are a progressive community in which people are free to be themselves without fear. Living fear-free is a good thing. Additionally, our congregation acknowledges we stand on the traditional lands of the Council of the Three Fires and the Anishinaabe people who were the indigenous inhabitants of Michigan. Our congregation supports indigenous-led organizations and grassroots change movements, and we encourage others to do as well. We also support indigenous-led campaigns in their quest to have careful, chosen land returned to them. Now, if you'd like more information about the Unitarianism or our particular congregation, please feel free to talk to our ministers. Their contact information can be found on our website, uuflint.org. And if you're a visitor today and would like to receive our weekly newsletter, you may also go to our website, or you can scan. There's a QR code on the back of the order of service, or you can complete a card that you can find in the little pockets in front of your chairs. If you complete one of those, we'll also get information to you. And we do have some important announcements on the back of your order of service if you take a look at those. And one important announcement that you hear every place is please silence your phones. However, I'm going to add something to it. If you can and are willing, when you're silencing it, if you would go to our YouTube channel and just put in the chat box, hi, to everybody that's out there, or if you'd like to turn around for just a second and wave at one of the cameras and say hi. Okay. If you'd like to join Jerry and Lynn on Tuesday night, we are having a silent protest. That's going to be hard for me. The nationally known alt-right pastor, Greg Locke, who is holding an ultra-conservative tent revival in Flint with a message of hate on Tuesday night. You can either meet here and carpool, or you can meet at the protest. Whether or not you can come, if you'd like to stop in the hall after service for coffee, we're also going to be doing protest signs down there. So if you can't come Tuesday night, if you can help out by making a sign today, that would be appreciated. Also, we're having a concert tonight here, free. How often do you hear that? It is the first brewer coffee concert of the year, and it's at 5 o'clock. I hope everybody can come. I'll be there. And next week is the flower communion. And for more information about that, please check your e-updates. Now for our chalice lighting. Humanity is simultaneously fragile and resilient. There is a divine spark in the tension of those opposites, just as we see in the flame of beauty. And if you'll join with me on reciting our covenant, which is now up on the screens. Recognizing the richness of diversity, the beauty and wonder of shared worship, and the transforming power of love and service, we gather as a sacred, intentional community to freely seek knowledge and truth, celebrate the fullness of life, and by our actions increase goodness and justice.
Our opening words are from Sunshine Jeremiah Wolf. This is a congregation that gathers in faith. Not faith in one religion or in one God or in any one way. We gather in faith of the power of diversity and the power of love and the hope of a world transformed by our care. We gather in faith in ourselves and those around us. Not a faith that requires perfection or rightness in one another. Rather, a faith that in our shared imperfection, we may learn to stumble and fall together. Faith that we will help one another to rise and try again and again.
If you are able and would like to stand, we can sing this song together. We are building a new way. 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 Getting stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Getting greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. Peace and freedom is reigning. We have freed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without this, the world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry. Thank you so much. Please be seated.
After our spoken meditation and silence today during the musical meditation, please feel free to light candles up front with a joy or concern, or you can write in the book, and that will be printed in the electronic newsletter. So first, let us enter into a spirit of prayer and meditation for these words by theologian Carter Hayward. Love, like truth and beauty, is concrete. Love is not fundamentally a sweet feeling, not at heart a matter of sentiment, attachment, or being drawn toward. Love is active, effective, a matter of making reciprocal and mutually beneficial relation with one's friends and enemies. Love creates righteousness or justice here on earth. To create love is to make justice. As advocates and activists know, loving involves struggle, resistance, risk. People working today on behalf of women, Blacks, lesbians, and gay men, the aging, the poor in this country and elsewhere, know that making justice is not a warm, fuzzy experience. The most compelling relationships demand hard work, patience, and a willingness to endure tensions and anxiety in creating mutually empowering bonds. For this reason, loving involves commitment. Love is a choice. Love is a conversion to humanity, a willingness to participate with others in the healing of a broken world and broken lives. Love is the choice to experience life as a member of the human family, a partner in the dance of life, rather than as an alien in the world or as a deity above the world, aloof and apart from human flesh. Let us enter into the silence. Amen. Blessed be.
Our reading this morning is entitled The Legalization of Love. Most people don't realize it, but the belief that people should marry someone they love is really quite new. For thousands of years, too much love was thought to be a real threat to the institution of marriage. Throughout much of history, proponents of arranged marriage were as horrified by the idea of a love match as late 20th century people were by the idea of same-sex marriage. In ancient times, many of the first marriages were by capture, not by choice. When there was a scarcity of young women, men raided other villages for wives. In ancient Greece, they thought love sickness was a type of insanity, a view that was adopted by medieval commentators in Europe. In the Middle Ages, the French defined love as a derangement of the mind. The importance of love in a relationship finally emerged in the late Middle Ages as a reaction to the often brutal nature of arranged marriages, but it was still not considered a vital prerequisite in matrimonial decisions. Centuries later, in 1690, Virginia wasn't for lovers. Passionate love between husband and wife was considered unseemly. One Virginia colonist described a woman he knew as more fond of her husband, perhaps, than the politeness of the day allows. Protestant ministers warned spouses against loving each other too much or using endearing nicknames that would undermine husbandly authority. Yeah. Then in 18th century Europe, love gained ground. In England and in the salons of Enlightenment thinkers, married love gained credibility. Finally, in the Victorian era of the 19th century, romantic love became viewed as the primary requirement for marriage, and courting became even more formal. Courting was almost an art form among the upper classes. Courtship required that prospective lovers reveal their feelings and that they do so more creatively and more sincerely than their competitors. Hence, the love marriage made people evolve in their ability to express who they were and to make themselves more behaviorally and psychologically attractive to their prospective mate. Yes, the love marriage and the resulting commitment to stay together because of love is more complicated than marriage defined and enforced by parents and a culture. Divorce rates exploded as the custom of enforced lifelong marriage went out the door, while simultaneously the idea of enduring romantic love entered through the same door. And now, the romantic love model, which emphasizes relationship permanence and complementary gender roles, is being displaced by a new model called confluent love. The confluent love model features the idea of the pure relationship, meaning a relationship that is entered into for its own sake and maintained only as long as both partners get enough satisfaction from it to stick around. Partners in a pure relationship establish trust through intense communication. Yet the possibility of breakup always looms. Some psychologists argue that pure relationships are more egalitarian than traditional romantic relationships, produce greater happiness for partners, and foster a greater sense of autonomy. At the same time, they admit that the contingent nature of the relationship commitment can breed psychological insecurity, which manifests in higher levels of anxiety, even drug addiction. But no matter what problems the love match may present to modern humanity, it is clear there is no going back to stealing your mate from a nearby tribe. The custom of the love partnering allows people to decide who they are and who they want to be with, whether such relationships succeed or fail. The lesson will be for the lovers to deal with and grow from, for better or for worse.
Often I am upset that I cannot fall in love, but I guess this avoids the stress of falling out of it. Are you tired of me yet? I'm a little sick right now, but I swear when I'm ready I will fly us out of here. Ooh, I'll cut my hair. Ooh, to make you stare. I'll hide my chest and I'll figure out a way to get us out of here. Turn off your porcelain face. I can't really think right now in this place. There's too many colors, enough to drive all of us insane. Are you dead? Sometimes I think I'm dead, 'cause I can feel ghosts and ghouls wrapping my head. But I don't wanna fall asleep just yet. Ooh, my eyes went dark. Ooh, I don't know where. My pupils are, but I'll figure out a way to get us out of here. Get a load of this monster. He doesn't know how to communicate. His mind is in a different place. Will everybody please give him a little bit of space? Get a load of this train wreck. His hair's a mess and he doesn't know who he is yet. But little does he know the stars welcome him with open arms. Oh. Ooh, time is ooh. face, but strangely he feels at home in this place.
One summer's night, 50 years ago exactly, when my second shift at the factory ended, I drove home quickly, got a shower, and set off with a friend of mine to a gay bar in Columbus, Ohio. As it turned out, it would be a night to remember. Now, I'm not going to, I know that in 2023, going to a gay bar is no big deal. In 1973, it was a big deal. And you can relax. I'm not making any startling revelations in this sermon. I mean, other than those I'm supposed to make as a minister. Of course, this story might be startling to Lynn because she has never heard it. So for some real entertainment, watch her face while I speak. But the only reason I've never mentioned it to her because I don't talk much at home and because I save my best stories for this place.
It's because I talk.
Yeah. I was evidently feeling very rebellious that summer. I had an earring in my left ear. Most farm boys at that era did not. The piercing was courtesy of some former high school friends, girls who knew how to pierce an ear because they'd pierced their own. This was my idea of being very rebellious in 1973. I wanted to look like Al Pacino in the movie Serpico. So I grew my hair and beard long and scruffy. I was just certain it would bolster my self-confidence. But funny, I don't remember anyone ever telling me I looked like Al Pacino. The small town of 800 people near our farm, for some reason, did not have many gay bars. So I had to go to the big city of Columbus to prove I was worthy of my new rock star hero, David Bowie. He had just announced to the world that he was gay. Now, I know it is unlikely that many, or all of you, certainly not, that many of you are probably not huge David Bowie fans, but let me help you understand what I was feeling. Imagine that you are in a time when being gay was barely legal, let alone acceptable in any way. Imagine you are young and you don't just love music, you wallow in it as only a young person can. Now, imagine that your favorite entertainer, you're going to have to help me out here, Bing Crosby, Doris Day, Nat King Cole, I'm probably not even coming close, Danny Kaye, yes, one of Lynn's favorites, Danny Kaye. Imagine Danny Kaye did an interview, and in that interview he said, "I'm gay. I've always been gay." That's what David Bowie did in 1972 in the British Melody Maker magazine. Even though the British Parliament had only decriminalized same-sex love just 5 years earlier. Post-Stonewall gay life in the U.S. was just 3 years old, but Bowie said it anyway. He had just put out a very popular album, and his next one was mostly good, and he knew it was going to be very good. Did his growing fame give him confidence to reveal who he was? Or did he do it because he needed to tell the truth, no matter what happened? It didn't make any difference to his young fans. We just bought more of his music or got in the car and went to the nearest mecca of gay culture to see what was happening. The music, and perhaps our youth, seemed to conquer any irrational fear of what others saw as dangerously different. People who belong to what is technically called a sexual or gender orientation minority group have always had to demand acceptance for who they are. They have always had to face the unreasoned hatred of others, and today, people who are transgender or gender non-binary are at the forefront of a new battle for human rights. The ammunition used by the other side is the same as always. The claim that a person's sexual or gender expression is somehow dangerous to society. People who were against the love marriage used the same argument for centuries. That's odd, really, when you think about it. The reason for hating someone, that reason for hating someone doesn't seem reasonable at all. One of our very imperfect, but nevertheless very progressive founders of progressive religion, Thomas Jefferson, talked about this kind of unreasonable hatred back when Protestants were hating religious minorities. Thomas Jefferson said, "It does me no injury for my neighbor to say there are 20 gods or no gods. It neither picks my pocket or breaks my leg." In that memorable phrase, he defined the liberal credo: if what a person does not hurt themselves or others, they must be left to themselves. And when they are not left to be themselves, there is injustice. But obviously, some people don't get that. The reason for their inability to accept others is not rational, no matter how common it is, and it goes like this. Psychologists note that some humans like to feel there are distinct boundaries, a job description surrounding their group. It gives them a fixed identity. It makes them feel good because they have a distinct identity. But then, if someone else breaks one of those boundaries, they somehow feel threatened. No one has broken their leg or picked their pocket, but they are feeling what is called distinctiveness threat. For one of many thousands of examples, men, we might call them extremely binary men, for some of them, all it takes is the sight of a man letting his female companion drive the car while he sits passively in the passenger seat. Somehow, the mere sight of this breaks some guy's legs. And all of this begs the question: how do we allay the irrational fears of people whose fears are so deeply seated? Fears that cause them to deny respect and gender-affirming health care to people who know that their mind, not their body, is the ruler. The high suicide rate among people who are non-binary or transgender, especially when their efforts to become themselves are thwarted, prove that the human mind must come first. So, how do we fight the battles of today's great gender wars when the real enemy is groundless fear? The answer, one that sinks in, is, as usual, found in a story, not in a philosophical statement. The war was just getting started in 1973. On that night, my friend and I finally arrived in Cowtown, Columbus, Ohio, but it was still just a guerrilla war back then. I remember my surprise when my friend and I finally made it to the gay bar scene in that big city. There were old brick buildings lining the deserted back street, and no lighted sign marked the nameless bar entrance. There was just one light bulb above an unfriendly steel door. And of course, there was no rainbow sign. It would not be invented for another 5 years. And even if it had existed at that time, it would take a very brave or perhaps very stupid gay bar owner to put up such a sign in 1973. The building did not look like any place David Bowie, my starman, would play. This was a hideout. It was memorable, though, because it was an old, very narrow building, so narrow that it had an odd feeling to it. But the hideout was nevertheless packed. Some years later, I would watch the bar scene in the first Star Wars movie and say, "Oh, I've been to that bar." But these presumed aliens were entirely friendly. My friend was greeted with the glad hellos appropriate for someone who had made such a long drive to arrive at 1 a.m. This was a bar where indeed everybody knew at least your first name. I was aware of being looked over. Was it because I looked like Al Pacino? I think not. But I heard one guy ask my friend over the loud music, "Is he gay?" My friend shook his head no, but with a look of regret, I'm just sure. The talk was of David Bowie, who had now publicly said he was bisexual. The guys at the bar would have none of those halfway measures. "Oh no, we've seen his show. He is gay all the way," they said. There was little time to chat, though, as we had to find a seat near the humble makeshift stage set up for the drag show. The show had no sooner started than an older-looking lady at the back of the pool of tightly packed men struggled through them to reach the front. She handed me a spotlight and asked if I would point it at the stage while she filmed the show with what would look to be a very professional 16mm movie camera. Yes, my friends, at the filming of one of Ohio's earliest drag shows, I was the key light grip. My arm got a little tired, and when the show was over, the cinematographer came to get her light, and for some reason, I thanked her as though she had done me a favor. Of course, she laughed and said, "Oh no, thank you." I don't remember much else about that night, and I don't remember if Mom asked me why I came home at 4:30 in the morning. Of course, I had no way of knowing that this was a new start to my life. That would include 20 years of HIV prevention work and HIV case management. In a way, I became a comrade in arms with the LGBT troops fighting not just HIV, but to show they weren't a threat to anyone. Those LGBT soldiers would not be content to hide out in nameless bars much longer, and they had a powerful stealth weapon at their disposal. I suppose David Bowie did it in part for money, as did Bing Crosby when they sang together on Bing's 1977 Christmas show. But regardless, Bowie either purposely or unwittingly used a sneak attack that soothed the world's irrational fears of being destroyed by gayness. Bowie was always intent to not just make another hit record, but to change society and culture. He took off his lipstick and his red hair, and he sang a Christmas song with Bing. Now, he refused to sing The Little Drummer Boy, but he would sing a song called Peace on Earth, carefully woven into Bing's traditional Christmas song. There were those there who said the two were awkward together at first, but then they realized their common musical gifts. It became magical. The king of straight, Bing Crosby, with his ears sticking out as usual, and the beautiful androgynous Bowie, side by side, belting out a beautiful song about peace on earth and a savior child. It was eventually released as a single by RCA Records in 1982, And it was a great commercial success, peaking at number 3 on the UK singles charts. It was Bing Crosby's final popular hit. He would die less than a year later. It became one of the best-selling singles of Bowie's career, with a total estimated sales of nearly 500,000 in the UK alone. The song has since become a Christmas classic in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom, and has been referred to by the Washington Post as the most successful duet in Christmas music history. The duet lulled millions of people into seeing a flamboyant gay man, not as a threat, but as a consummate vocalist and musician, and just plain nice guy. I'll put the YouTube link to this video in our e-update newsletter. I encourage you to watch it. You'll see why it's so popular. This was not a case of David Bowie accommodating himself to the dominant culture. He had already made his unequivocal theatrical statement that being gay was not to be hidden, even if it looked alien to others. His songs spoke of many things, of 2 loving fathers who were a couple of kooks hung up on romancing while taking care of their child, of loving queens who could do it as good or better than any woman. He spoke of rebels who proudly put on their dresses so well that no one else would know. Got your mother in a whirl? She's not sure if you're a boy or a girl. How could they know? He cheered them on. How could they know? In other words, his songs were just about people trying to find love and acceptance. The glam rock packaging was just good theater, an idea politely borrowed later by Elton John, Lady Gaga, and many, many others. Most of the millions who watched Bowie and Bing that Christmas experienced just one thing. They saw an old straight guy and a young gay man could do something beautiful together. And that was a battle won. And yes, there are still millions of fearful people to convince. And some of them will be at a tent revival meeting Tuesday night at the Lighthouse Spirit of God Church right here in Flint. I hope some of you will join us at what I hope will be a visible, as much as possible, non-angry protest to the extent that abused people can keep their anger under control. Such a thing, I know, is not easy, but I'm always reminded of the wisdom of Martin Luther King. When faced by the irrational, terrible hatred of white people who oppose civil rights, he told his people, "You can't defeat hate with hate. Only love can do that." As otherworldly as it sounds, I think it's a matter of physics. I've been watching the videos of the preacher Greg Locke, and there is no way you can out-hate him. Or I should say, be as fearful as he is. He fears Jews because they don't think Jesus was the long-awaited Messiah. Never mind that 250 years of scholarship shows conclusively that Jesus didn't think he was the Messiah either. Locke is afraid of common sense masking requirements that prevent disease and save lives. He is afraid because Donald Trump lost an election, so afraid that he believes the baseless conspiracy theories that give empty solace and more fear to Trump supporters. But mostly, he is afraid of people who are LGBT and their supporters because, as is obvious to us, his fragile sense of self-worth is diminished by the fact that other people are different. He thinks we have broken his legs and picked his pocket because people are different and who have always been among us, and they are now speaking up. Our adopted transgender son is now in a United Nations safe house in his native Uganda, and his life is seriously in danger because he has spoken up so often. He faces hundreds of Greg Locks, but the battle is the same in so many ways. People who feel threatened by the shadows of those who are just different often resort to violence. Same problem, different continent. There may be many ways to fight such injustice, but I would like to suggest one that is well proven. Show well-intentioned, sincere empathy for these frightened people. You may prefer to hate them. That's easy. Now, showing them empathy doesn't imply being passive in any way during these gender wars. Laws must be passed, violent people prosecuted. But the lesson from the great successes of Mahatma Gandhi, of Martin Luther King in America, and of the gay rights struggle throughout the world is this: not giving in to the hate born of fear leads to victory faster than any hate-filled counteroffensive. We may not be able to change the adults whose beliefs are set, but their children are watching us and listening to our music. Will we proclaim love in the face of hate, as hard as that can be? It is a hard tactic to maintain, which is probably proof that it is a good one. Gay rights and the rights of many other minorities have been hard-earned on many fronts. Certainly, one of those fronts has been the battle to show that putatively threatening different people are mostly just like everyone else. The LGBT people who have had to hide in their back alley bars for so many years have won many battles against fear. In fact, there are fewer gay bars with each passing year because most people no longer alienate LGBT people. Of course, they were never aliens, except to those who did not have the vision to see that they were just fellow human beings, people who were loving people they chose to love. The battle for the acceptance of the love marriage all the way, has been a very long one, and it continues. As pure chance would have it, I was in downtown Columbus one day in 2017, walking with fellow HIV prevention coordinators to get a bite to eat during the lunch break from a very boring seminar. We were walking towards a very narrow, almost ancient, well-restored brick building in the distance. My friend said it was the home of a great little restaurant. When we got closer, I immediately started laughing. Could it be? Nah, yes, it was unmistakable. It is a so-called Flatiron building, as it's shaped like a wedge, and now it's in the National Register of Historic Places. There are about 40 such Flatiron buildings in America, and they are built because sometimes streets cross each other at an acute angle, and if you want to use that land, you have to build a wedge-shaped building. Somewhere, there is a life-giving metaphor in that, but I'll leave it to you. There were 6 people in our group, talking, as co-workers will do. So they did not see me pushed around by waves of nostalgia that just about knocked me down. I started to tell them about that night so many years ago, and about the drag show, and how I was now standing right there where I sat that night, holding that light, and thanking the lady. Hang on, here we go. But I gave up trying to tell my story. I should also explain Lynn was crying because out of fear for Jay, our son in Uganda. But I gave up trying to tell them the story because I knew it would not translate well. It's a long story, as you have witnessed, and it's nothing special, really. It's just about people being people, not hurting anyone, just having a good time being themselves. And it just so happens that is an amazing, world-changing thing. Thank you.
We give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred spaces. We give with faith that together we have enough. We invite you to join us in taking a collection now by placing your offerings in the basket at the back of the church as you leave, or by going online to uucf.org. Again, there's a QR code on the order of service. We can also do that. All gifts of treasure, time, and talent are gratefully received. Thank you.
Who knew it was going to be such an emotional day? Our closing words are from Maya Angelou. Be at home wherever you are. Love heals and liberates. I use the word love not meaning sentimentality, but a condition so strong that it may be that which holds the stars in their heavenly positions, and that which causes the blood to flow orderly in our own veins.
And let us extinguish our chalice. Extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.